In 1918, in a town in France, a Canadian military miner named Burton was assigned to rescue American tunnel diggers who were trapped 78 feet underground, right beneath the German soldiers' position. Along the way, he found many workers who had died horribly, until one survivor suddenly screamed hysterically upon seeing Burton, mistaking him for a German soldier. Unfortunately, the scream was heard by the Germans, who then immediately blew up the area. 3 months later in the same year, on November 2nd, a pair of British Army intelligence officers, Major Jennings and Dr. Priest, were summoned by a colonel to discuss their suspicions about a German bunker known as Trench 11. Major Jennings and Dr. Priest explained that they believed a deadly experiment was being conducted in that bunker by a German officer named Reiner. They suspected the bunker was being used as Reiner's base of operations to create more biological weapons. To prevent this, Major Jennings and Dr. Priest requested permission to investigate the situation inside the bunker. Major Jennings knew well that for this mission, they needed a highly skilled military miner. So he had prepared a recommendation letter for a miner who had once been trapped in that bunker for 12 days and managed to escape. Who else could it be but Burton, whom we saw in the opening scene? The colonel permitted Major Jennings to recall Burton from his leave to assist with their investigation. At that time, Burton was enjoying a romantic relationship with a French woman named Veronique. However, due to orders from his superior, Burton was reluctantly dragged along to accompany Major Jennings and Dr. Priest to Trench 11. The colonel also included 3 American escorts, Captain Cooper, Sergeant Pronger, and Private Kelly, to help guard against any German soldiers that might still be hiding around the bunker. A few hours into the journey, Captain Cooper and his team requested to stop briefly due to the very unfavorable weather. Based on their experience, they feared that there might be remnants of German soldiers ahead, hiding and waiting for them. Initially, Major Jennings did not agree with their decision, considering it a waste of valuable time. However, after a heated debate, they were allowed to stop for 1 hour. After the storm subsided enough, they resumed their journey until they reached a bunker believed to be the entrance to Trench 11. They began searching for the entrance but were instead shocked by blood scattered all over the ground. It turned out that the German soldiers had been shot by their own comrades for unknown reasons. Meanwhile, at the 5th German Army headquarters, General Ophels ordered Reiner and Captain Müller to erase all evidence in Trench 11, fearing that one day the experiment might be discovered by their allies. Back with the investigators, they found the entrance to the Trench 11 bunker, but strangely the access points to the bunker had been destroyed by the German soldiers, indicating that the Germans did not want anyone to enter. Burton's experience being trapped down there for 12 days led him to be ordered to check the situation below first, where he found blood smeared all over the tunnel walls. One by one, they entered and walked through the silent, suffocating darkness until they finally came across a thick door that had been deliberately blocked by the German soldiers. In front of the door, they found a German soldier lying on the ground with injuries on his fingers, as if he had tried to climb out but failed. Suddenly, the soldier woke up. The German soldier frantically begged Captain Cooper not to let his comrade open the door, fearing that something inside would kill them all. However, due to Major Jennings's stubbornness, he ordered his men to ignore the plea and continue focusing on opening the door. This caused the German soldier to become even more hysterical, pleading and pressing Captain Cooper to shoot him rather than let him face whatever was behind the door. In the end, the soldier was shot dead. Once the door was opened, they all proceeded to investigate further inside. The deeper they went, the more intense the situation became, with blood everywhere and terrifying faint sounds. Eventually, when they entered one of the rooms, suddenly a madman clung to Private Kelly and spewed green fluid from his mouth. In an instant, Sergeant Pronger shot the madman dead, but unknowingly his grenade fell. Fortunately, Burton quickly threw the grenade out of the room. However, unfortunately, the explosion caused the tunnel they came from to collapse, meaning they could no longer exit the way they came in. They had no choice but to find another way out. Major Jennings then divided them into 2 groups, with Burton and Cooper tasked to explore further into the bunker to find an exit that might be on the eastern side. Meanwhile, he, Pronger, Dr. Priest, and Kelly went to a strange room that appeared to be a torture chamber used during Reiner's regime. They also found a map that could guide them to the laboratory, their ultimate destination. However, while engrossed in studying the map, suddenly a sickly human figure appeared right behind Sergeant Pronger. This is where Reiner's experiment secrets were uncovered. At first, they couldn't believe their eyes when they saw that gunshot wounds on the man were releasing parasitic worms. But to confirm their doubts, Dr. Priest decided to perform an impromptu autopsy to gather evidence for their investigation. Who would have thought that inside the man's body, there were numerous strange worms that had completely taken over his corpse? Dr. Priest stated that these worms were parasitic, typically found in diseased animals. He was puzzled because humans shouldn't have these worms, even if they had eaten animals with parasitic worms in their bodies. Then the doctor pinched the corpse's nose, and a large number of parasitic worms poured out. Dr. Priest concluded that these parasites had taken over the human body, even to its deepest cavities. They caused their victims to become demented or aggressive towards three things: killing, committing immoral acts, or harming themselves. That's why this disease is not natural, but rather a human-made creation. In short, after understanding what they were dealing with, the Colonel's team suggested that they leave immediately and bury this disease, just like the German soldiers did. They believed it was some sort of failed German experiment that should not be known to the public. Unfortunately, Major Jennings refused. He wanted to continue the mission until he obtained a serum sample, which was most likely in the laboratory room. This decision clearly caused Pronger and Kelly to rebel and threaten Major Jennings if he insisted on his plan. But before any shots were fired, a group of German soldiers suddenly arrived and opened fire on them. Major Jennings was shot and died instantly, as did Pronger. Meanwhile, at the same time, Burton and Captain Cooper managed to find an exit on the eastern side. However, they were met by another group of German soldiers waiting for them. The four of them were interrogated and forced to guide Captain Muller to the bombing site. Before leaving, Reiner, the mastermind behind the experiment, requested that Dr. Priest not join the expedition because he wanted to have a private conversation with the doctor. Reiner interrogated Dr. Priest and tried to convince him of his twisted views on science. Reiner revealed that he greatly admired the results of his experiment, although for now it only worked on livestock. He intended to collaborate with Dr. Priest to perfect the parasitic worm weapon that would work on humans. Dr. Priest desperately tried to negotiate with Reiner not to use the parasite for civilian life. However, Reiner remained adamant about using his experiment to destroy Europe and further develop it under German rule. Dr. Priest, who refused, was tortured to death. At the same time, Private Kelly, who was exposed to the green fluid earlier, began to show serious symptoms. He suddenly transformed into a zombie-like state and attacked his comrade. But Burton quickly shot Private Kelly. Unfortunately, one of their bitten comrades could not be saved. Seeing this, Captain Muller realized that Reiner's experiment was indeed very dangerous and needed to be destroyed immediately. Captain Muller and Burton then worked together to blow up Reiner's experimental site. When they arrived at the bombing site, they began to plan how to set off the explosion after they escaped. At that time, they did not have a detonator, so they had to rely on a jumper that could explode at any moment. Just as everything was almost ready, suddenly, one of the infected individuals struck Muller's leg, causing a fracture and damaging the jumper. With no other choice, Captain Muller sacrificed himself to become a makeshift detonator. Burton directed him to trigger the bomb by carefully connecting two wires. Captain Muller gave Burton half an hour to get out before he would blow up the bunker along with himself at the designated time. Immediately, Burton ran through the maze-like tunnel. Along the way, another infected person tried to obstruct Burton. Fortunately, before the person could spew green fluid, Burton managed to defeat him. He finally reached the exit door. As he was about to ascend to the surface, he was suddenly shot by Reiner and his two subordinates, who happened to be on their way up to the surface as well. Burton was beaten and tortured, but he only laughed, knowing this would happen. Fortunately, before Reiner could shoot, the half hour had passed, giving Burton a chance to fight back. Reiner ended up falling and accidentally impaled his eye on a disease container he was carrying. The parasite would inevitably kill Reiner slowly. The tunnel began to collapse bit by bit, and Burton quickly ascended to the surface, ultimately surviving alone. The movie ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.